I was always the well-behaved kid, at least on the surface. What I think I was really doing was trying to score points for good behavior. And this got me beaten up by my classmates quite a bit, particularly in 3rd grade. Now, of course, in 3rd grade, we were living in Berkeley, or rather, North Berkeley, which at the time was a rather bad part of town. And the reason we were living in a bad part of town is my parents were unemployed at the time. And the reason they were unemployed is that they were hippie wannabes. There is nothing more pathetic than trying and failing to be a hippie. It was during this hippie wannabe phase that my dad discovered Wilhelm Reich. But that's a subject for another video, or maybe even several videos. The neighborhood might not have been so rough if you were an adult, but as a kid going to Jefferson Primary School in 3rd grade, it was awful. There were kids in my neighborhood that decided that after school they were going to take over the entire street. I could not go out the front door without getting attacked. And these weren't like, gang members or something. These were just kids my own age. And I hate to say it, but I took all that frustration out on my younger brother. And he didn't deserve it. I just remember hitting him when, at the slightest provocation. He didn't deserve me to treat him like that. And thankfully, we didn't stay in that neighborhood forever. Eventually, my parents decided to pack up and move from the rough neighborhood of North Berkeley to the much nicer neighborhood in Santa Monica. We moved into an apartment less than half a block from Washington Elementary School. My mom had a master's degree in nursing, so she very quickly got a job as a registered nurse at a health clinic. Unfortunately, the elementary school did not have room for me in one of their normal classes because we had moved there in the middle of the school year and all the regular classes were full. So the only class they had room to put me in was a class for troubled youth. And you can imagine what would happen in a class filled with troubled youth when a kid like me with a great big target painted on his chest and a kick me sign practically taped to his butt gets into the classroom. I remember one day one of the boys held my arms back behind my back while all of the other boys in the class took turns punching me. The only 2 people in the class that didn't hit me were these 2 girls, the only 2 girls in the class, one of whom I think was actually mentally disabled in some manner. I never really found the details. The good news was that unlike regular classes, which got out at 3 p.m., this troubled youth class got out at 1:45 p.m. And since my dad pretty soon got a job of his own, this meant that from 1:45 in the afternoon, when I walked the half a block home, until 5 p.m., or a little after 5 when my mom got home, I was home alone. My brother was usually out playing with his friends. I was less social than that, so I got the house to myself. That's right, I was a latchkey kid. Don't let anyone tell you that being a latchkey kid is a bad thing. It's great. I recommend it to anybody. When I was home alone, I would typically watch TV on the little 9-inch black and white TV we had, and eat breadsticks with little bits of butter. You take the breadstick, it's one of these little hard crunchy breadsticks, not the fancy kind they have at Olive Garden, just a little type you buy off the shelf, and you take your butter, just a little pat of butter like that, and just scrape some of the butter off. I can feel like that. It's great. It was about that time that I started gaining weight too, come to think of it. You young whippersnappers are probably too young to remember this, but this was 1974, so that little 9-inch black and white TV had vacuum tubes. When you turned on the power, you had to wait for the tubes to warm up before you could see a picture. As opposed to modern TV sets where you turn them on and you have to wait for the software on board the TV to boot before you can see a picture. It wasn't just the fact that I was a goody two-shoes in class that made me a class punching bag. It was also what I did when I was on the playground at recess or at lunchtime. Most other kids would play with each other. I would play by myself. I was play acting. I would pretend to be a superhero or play Mr. Inventions or one of those other things where I'd act out all the little parts myself and come up with these rather elaborate stories that I would act through. And in fact, in 5th grade, by 5th grade, it had changed to the $6 Million Man. I could do all the sound effects. Sang all the tunes. One of my favorite alternate tunes. And of course, the Bionic Eye sound. When kids asked me what I was doing when they found me in one of those times, I would say, "Oh, I'm playing with myself." And I was playing with myself, but apparently that particular phrasing didn't mean what I thought it did. And I didn't. And my dad told me, "Don't tell him you're playing with yourself. Tell him you're playing by yourself." At the time, I didn't understand the distinction. In fact, I wouldn't have any direct experience with that distinction until I was 14. This tendency of mine for play acting finally got me in real trouble in 7th grade when I graduated from elementary school to junior high school. It was 1977, and Star Wars had just come out that summer. And like most of the kids, I loved Star Wars, and I play acted it all the time. Made the blaster sound effects. Made the lightsaber battles. When you pretend to shoot blasters in the halls of junior high school, or do pretend lightsaber fights, you get a very bad reputation very quickly. The social ostracism was unbelievably bad. Eventually I realized that this was not going to work out, and so in late October I ceremonially broke my air lightsaber in half and vowed never to do any play acting in the halls again. Or even play acting on the playground again. But it didn't matter. My bad reputation had already been secured, and it followed me around for the rest of the school year. I could just be walking home and someone would go, "Hey, Star Wars!" The first girl I ever had a crush on wasn't a real live girl at all. It was Darla from the Little Rascals. I was still in 3rd grade, we were still in Berkeley, and I remember having a dream where Darla and I were engaged. Actually, I didn't know the real word for it at the time. All I knew was, okay, it was something less than married. What's less than married? Let's call it engaged. I didn't know words like boyfriend and girlfriend or going steady. I didn't know those terms at the time. So in my dream, we were engaged. I didn't actually have a crush on a real live girl until I was 10 years old. That was in the summer right before 5th grade when I was going to Y Camp, and I saw this absolutely gorgeous blonde girl who turned out to be named Birgit. It's a Norwegian name, but she didn't have an accent or anything. I just remember the first time I saw her, I was like, no, I must have imagined it. Nobody in real life is that beautiful. And then I saw her again. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I puttered around for about a year holding on to my feelings, not daring to let her know. I told other people, like my brother and stuff, but that was about it. When she finally found out about it, when I finally expressed my infatuation for her, I think her reaction was something like, "Him? Oh God, no. Ugh." The next time I had a serious crush on a girl was at age 14, in 9th grade, which was the last year of junior high. Her name was Diana Milbert. Oh, wow, I was so crazy about her. But like with Birgit, I didn't tell her for about the first year. Unfortunately, the first year was the only opportunity I had. The next year we went over to high school, and we didn't go to the same high school. I never saw her again. I lost track of her. I never told Diana Milbert how crazy I was for her. Although I did hear at my 20-year high school reunion that some other girls who did know her thought of her as kind of a party girl who had just crashed her car or wrecked her car because of doing party girl stuff. But that's all I've heard about her since then. And yes, that's the same age 14 at which I first learned how to play with myself. And yes, Diana Milbert was the catalyst. Wow. I suppose this has been a rather long video just to answer the question, what kind of a kid was I like? But there was one other thing Carrie said in that thread that merits attention. She said, show us your tits doesn't count as a question. Well, Carrie, ta-da!